Howdy folks. I often like to make videos when I feel like I'm doing something that's kind of interesting or unique. And what I am just about to start doing is making the full-size version of this scale model of an armillary sphere. So this was a 1/4 size model that I made from steel for the client, so they could see what the full size version would be like when it's completed. So full size version would be 90 centimeters diameter. All the steels that I used in this were, some of them are sort of near as damn it, they're not exactly the right size, but because the the steel sizes don't exist, like, you know, this outer ring is going to be 50 by 10 and this one's going to be 60 by 6, and then like this ring that my index finger is pointing at, that's going to be 40 by 12. Like, all the 1/4 size versions of those steels don't exist, so I had to sort of cut a lot of them down to shape, so they're sort of near as damn it, but they're not exactly 1/4 size of the finished bars, that like the finished article that will be used in this. So anyway, I'll just quickly flick through some of these images from the designs that I did for the client. So these sort of show the beveled hoops that form the tropics and the poles. So like there's a pole, a tropic, equator, another, this is probably not coming out too well, tropic, and then another pole down at the bottom. Oh, that was just a, oh. All these rings have different names. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, a bit dark maybe. Yeah. So the one that I'm going to be first of all working on is B, which is horizon, which is this one. So part of the reason I thought I'd make a video on this is because there's a number of challenges in bending some of these steels, like particularly this one, this horizon ring, which is going to be 50 by 10. So it's quite a sort of, quite a thick steel to bend on edge. I'm not going to try and, I don't think I'll like try and do too much like educating, because, you know, I just kind of show what I'm doing. I'm not like a teacher. But if I encounter sort of hiccups along the way, I'll try and explain how I'm working around them. I guess the first thing to say really with this is that I've drawn out the finished size of the hoop on this piece of ply. Let me move this out of the way. And I've done that by just getting a bar of steel and drilling a hole in the center, putting a pin through it, and then putting my pencil through a couple holes, then running it round to give my finished hoop. So yeah, I don't want to get too technical and boring with it all, but basically what I'm going to try and do is cut the steel to length and pre-roll the two ends of the steel bar to length before rolling the center of the steel bar to length. So this design, this drawing will allow me to offer up the ends of the steel bar on to check to see that I'm rolling to the right curvature before then moving to the middle of the steel bar. I might explain more about this as I go, but you know, I'm just kind of doing this for fun. I don't want to make this a big thing. So I have my 50 by 10 stock here, which is going to form that horizon ring, and it's in its vertical plane on like the hard axis. So it's much harder to bend it on this axis than it is when it's laying flat. The roll that I have, I'm like maybe the third or fourth owner, I guess. It was made by someone, don't know who, but way back in time. Rollers that are, you know, made by like proper like companies, for want of a better word, they often have like on the dies, pieces that you can move around so that they can accommodate steel profiles of different types. So like if you want to, for example, roll flat bar on its vertical axis, or if you want to roll round bar, etc. My rollers don't have that. All they have was this sort of these flat dies. What I've sort of Heath Robinsoned together to accommodate rolling this flat bar on edge is some hoops of steel that I've bent to the outside diameter of these dies. So there's 1, 2 on the top, 2 down on this roller, and then 1, 2 over here. And what I've done is I've spaced them just apart so that they can fit this 10mm width bar on its vertical edge, and then into the these bars I've drilled and threaded holes, so they've got these grub screws which sort of just hold them in place. So what that will do is prevent the flat bar from falling on its side, which is what it would automatically want to do. And so part of the difficulty of this outer horizon ring will be keeping it from falling side to side, and also flat bar always naturally wants to sort of do that or go that way, so I'll be sort of standing at one end of it and just like trying to keep everything, stopping it from twisting, stopping it from doing that, stopping it from dragging off this way or that way. So although the machine is like doing the grunt of it, it's not a simple process. So I've run the bar through the roller a couple times since stopping the video last, and I thought I'd pause here to show what I knew would happen. And what I was sort of trying to explain is the difficulty with it is that you can see how the bar twists, and also then how it sort of falls off to a side. So if I was to, like, this area of the ground is flat, so if I show you like that, you can see daylight, a lot less daylight on one side than the other. So I've made hoops from flat bar on edge before for other work, so I know that the process is to have to sort of flatten it down in the fly press, or anvil or whatever, to keep it from twisting up, to keep it always flat. I know some folks will say, oh, you can just pay to have like specialist firms roll these things for you. Yeah, you can, but where's the fun in that? I mean, like, I want to be part of the process, not just someone who orders stuff from another company. So after trying to even things out on my fly press, the 6-ton fly press just wasn't enough. So I've come over to the 12-ton hydraulic press, which seems to be doing a good job. I've got about halfway with it, and I'm so going to sort of record the second half. What I kind of feel with these sorts of things is that even if there's a bit of a ripple as it's going, as you get nearer the end, the thing sort of helps center itself, and by the time I've got to the point of it being near a complete circle, the wingspan of it is going to be so much less that I'll be able to sort of lay it out on the bench, my 8 foot by 4 foot bench, and I'll be able to sort of do it all in one spot. Whereas here, because the sort of wingspan of this piece of steel that I've got is about 3 meters, I'm having to support it on either end of a stand that's over here and a stand that's over there. So it's a lot more difficult to sort of manhandle. So coming back to the floor and laying it back down on the floor to check how that's worked, it's worked brilliantly. And if I sort of squat down again and compare, like, there's virtually no daylight, if any. And to be honest, even if there is a little bit anywhere at this stage, it doesn't really matter to me, because it will help, you know, it will gradually keep itself more and more in track. But that's fantastic to know that that's the solution to keeping it flat, because that was really always my biggest worry about rolling this 50 by 10 on edge. So a considerable number of hours later, it's almost done, but it's not quite right, and that's obvious by, if I press down on that, where you can even see that if these were right, then this would be clearly overlapping that, but there's a difference. So I've put this onto the drawing to identify where I think it goes wrong. So if I look at the bottom one, which is like within the lines of the drawing, the point at which I've marked, I think it's about oh god, hang on, sorry, I'm moving this. I reckon it's about there, at which point you can see the drawing line becomes increasingly an increasing distance away. So it sort of seems okay to about there. And what I've done is I've marked that on both sides. Hang on, let me just turn this over. So it's marked on the bottom side as well. And the way that I can check it is by putting this other side into the drawing. I might have to pause the video and do this with 2 hands, because it's a bit awkward with 1 hand. That's about right. Anyway, so this is now sort of within the drawing. If I press down on this to bring them like that, the point I can see there, so there's the drawing, it's there, so that's that sort of faint mark there is the reverse side, so you can see there's something going wrong there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this excess off, which is excess that I factored in. You can see, oh no, they're on the other side. Hang on a sec. I'd centre punched the start and stop points by pre-working out how much materials were needed, and the way I did that is by it's a 900mm diameter hoop, so that means the centre line of the hoop, because it stretches on the outside, compresses on the inside, so the centre of the bar is the bar that is the part that remains a constant. So the distance from the centre of one side to the centre of the other is 850. Times that by pi and you get about well, 2 meters, 67 centimeters of steel. So I measured that out, center punched the start and stop points, so I know where to trim back to. Rambling on, can't remember what the original train of thought was. Yeah, cut them off and then put it back through the rollers without this overlap, because this overlap creates a problem when you're trying to pass it through the rollers. So I'm hoping that if I can feed it through the rollers as one thing in its same plane, then getting to this problem, which was, oh, it's over there, will be easier. It'll be easier to sort of knock that problem out, I hope. Right, so this is the hoop finished. It was, yeah, a lot more effort than I was expecting. I think really that's a combination of the fact that my roller doesn't have exactly the right dies, and just things like as I was rolling it up, it was hitting into the roof rafter, so then I had to roll it back the reverse way. And so that sort of took time, rolling it backwards and forwards rather than just being able to sort of do it in one pass. When I cut the excess off and then sort of like pushed the ends down, I could see that it was twisted in a few areas, so I had to sort of do a bit of jiggery pokery to get it to sort of twist back flat, and that was kind of using the fly press and I don't know, just a number of little tweaks, but it's laying nice and flat now, and there's like really minimal kind of, daylight showing if you squat down and look at it underneath. And then progressively as more stuff is added in, then, just like any tiny little wibble wobbles just not be visible at all. Anyway, it's a handmade product, and yeah, I'm ultimately glad I've done it by hand rather than just sort of farming this out to, a specialist ring rolling firm, because I don't think there's much joy in that.